Welcome to Success in Motion. Join us as we dive deep with top leaders, entrepreneurs, and professionals, uncovering strategies to grow, scale, and succeed.
Welcome back to the Success in Motion podcast. I'm your host, Alex Burho, and today we're going to be joined by Daniel Cook. Daniel is the CEO of Covest Properties, and Daniel, thank you so much for joining us today.
I appreciate you having me.
So, can you go ahead and just share a little bit about what is Covest Properties? Tell us a little bit about what you do and who you are.
Okay. Well, Covest Properties is a company that helps people get into homes that do not qualify for conventional loans. A lot of 1099 employees, divorced people. It's a program that we set up a joint venture between an investor or a landlord and the tenant investor. The tenant investor comes to the table with 10% of the value of the property. And then they do a agreement to move in and pay all of the costs of operating that home to the investor. They pay the taxes, the insurance, the fixes, the mortgage, everything. And it's a 6 to 8 year agreement. Normally, we can structure it any way the investor and the co-investor would like. It's a joint venture in real estate. And during that time, it's all designed to let somebody either build equity to pay off student debt or to build equity to buy their own home. So at the end of the 6 to 8 years that they participate, they get back their down payment, which the investor got to use that money for that period of time. And they get 49% of the pay down equity that they have put on the property. And they share in the tax and the depreciation advantages of being a partner in this project. And we hope to help a lot of different kinds of people get into homes.
That's really awesome, and it's definitely a unique approach. How did you either come up with this idea or how did you start this business?
So interestingly enough, I owned a company called Swiss Tire and Automotive in Denver with 7 locations for approximately 25 years. And I got divorced and I did not want to pay for a long time. So I sold that company and paid off my ex-wife and set up trusts for my 2 daughters. And then I bought a company called BG Distributorship for San Diego. And when I got out there, I didn't qualify to buy a house because the company was new and I had just gone through a divorce. I didn't want to pay all that kind of rent for nothing out there. So I found a guy who was just on the brink of doing something like Covest. And we found several different properties I looked at. I was able to make a down payment on an $850,000 house that had a beautiful guest house, was right on a golf course, had a basketball court and a swimming pool. And I was able to give him $150,000 down. I moved in, assumed all of the mortgage payments, taxes, insurance, everything for 2 years. And then I was able to refinance, pay him off. He was super happy and it worked out great for me. I ended up selling that house for $1.4 million 4 years after that. So everybody won. And I'm like, why don't more people do this? This is great. And then we said, well, student debt was a big issue at that point. We said, hey, we can give students an equity vehicle to get out of debt by doing a joint venture with them in real estate. Normally in a 6-year pay down on most houses, usually at the end of 6 years, there's about $50,000 in pay down equity on average. They could then refinance, own a home, and pay off debt. So we took that forward, made it all the way to the head of the student debt program at the time, Lamar Alexander's office out of Tennessee. And they said, we're not worried about student debt anymore. COVID's happening and we're not worried about it. So that was disheartening. And we put it on the shelf. And then Black Lives Matter happened. And we said, wow, we could help minorities into homes and really help. And so a gentleman named Robert Johnson had written an article. He owns Black Entertainment Television and Charlotte Hornets at the time. And so we wrote to him and said, hey, we have a program that will really help minorities. He had written the article saying the difference between whites and blacks was home equity over time. So we said, hey, we have a program that will help. And actually never heard back from him. And I'm actually from Akron, Ohio. And my sister is a federal judge, and she and her husband had gone to the school that LeBron James and Steph Curry went to in Akron and gotten mentors for all those third graders in that class and put 27 of them through college, showing that if somebody's there and cares, cool things can happen. So we also then wrote to LeBron and Maverick Carter and never heard back from them. So we were looking for a little seed capital to get that going. So I put it back on the shelf for a little bit. And now being a landlord in a lot of states is becoming more and more difficult. And so we would like to show a solution to solve all three of those different issues that we've just talked about. And it worked so well for me, we're decided to try to bring it forward for everybody.
That's awesome. Well, it's really awesome that, you did this because you lived it, you experienced it, and you're like, this was so helpful. Let's get it to others.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
as you've been building this business, what would you say has been some of the things that really help set you guys apart, that really has been a strength for you and for your company?
Well, instead of obviously having right now, home ownership in the US is getting to be harder and harder for a lot of people, the amount of money required to get into it. So our biggest strength is there is no real estate agent involved. There are no, you know, fees for them to get in normally associated with a real estate brokerage. So our biggest strength, I think, will be to help. A lot of landlords are leaving actually en masse, and they're facing sometimes 40% capital gains taxes and or going into some sort of real estate trust or other ways of getting out that cost them a lot of money and they still don't control the property. So our biggest strength is we can let investors get all of the benefits of being a real estate investor with not a lot of the problems of being one.
And that's awesome. We all want to deal with less headaches. That's for sure.
Yes. Yeah. And a lot of people get into being a landlord thinking they're going to make a ton of money. But really, if they only own one or two properties, they find that it takes quite a while to make it pay off. It's more problems than they thought it would be
Hmm.
between vacancies and people not taking care of the property and those kinds of problems.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what would you say has been something that you personally have found easy as you've gone on along this journey or what strengths have you brought to the table that you have found has really helped you personally?
Really, the biggest strength, I think, is perseverance, sticking to it and believing in it. Um, you know, over the first two iterations, I guess it could have been easy to say, hey, let's do something else. Uh, but I'd say perseverance is the biggest thing. And I would say 90% of the people that we deal with in this program think it's phenomenal. So
Yeah,
I'd say the biggest strength is perseverance.
absolutely. And when you're able to keep going and you keep going until you find that right time, that right aspect, the right thing to bring, that's awesome. That's great. So, what tips would you give to someone who is, again, either your ideal investor or someone looking for a house and they're like, hey, I don't know where to go? What tips would you have for them to be able to either go through your program or figure it out?
Well, so we're going to be more of a niche company that would help normally people that are renters that are somewhat trapped in being renters and not being able to build up equity. And a lot of times they're scared that people they're renting from could sell the house and they'll have to move, and they don't have the security of being a homeowner and fitting into a neighborhood for a long period of time. So I would say find a neighborhood you're very comfortable with, and a house that you think you would like, or let us know what area it would be, and then we will hook them up with somebody to partner with in this program.
That's awesome. So, what would you say has been some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome as you've been doing this? Again, you talked about that perseverance and having to change a little bit, but what other challenges have there been?
I'd say the biggest challenge of the whole program are people thinking it sounds too good to be true. God, that sounds great, um, but until we really have it up and running in more cities, people are very skeptical of it, and don't really take the time to look at the benefits of it. To me, it's sort of like making a judgment that no, that's not going to work for me before they really get into it and see all the benefits of it.
Mhm. Absolutely. Again, sometimes you have to see a little bit more proof before, like, absolutely, this is the best.
Yes.
Okay. So it sounds like a lot of things are going really well. Sounds like you're starting to make some good headway. Now, I know a lot of people, especially who are in the real estate sphere, are looking towards the future and looking at creating passive income to help supplement their active income. What have been your thoughts on creating this passive income?
Well, that's one of the best benefits of our program. It helps investors become a passive person in the program. They don't have to spend their time chasing down tenants and fixes and taxes and all of that program. So for an investor, it's really an ideal passive investment that they can continue to operate after the first tenant moves out, and the value is higher for that investor. We bring a new investor in at a higher basis for them, so they can just continue on this path without ever having any of the problems associated with a landlord incoming producing property.
Mhm. Now, for you, what kind of thing or what, let's say there's someone who wants to get into real estate investing, be a little more on the active side, maybe similar to you. I know you're more in a niche. Would you have any suggestions for someone who's kind of new to the real estate world?
Well, actually, yes. As I told you earlier, some of my first real estate investments came out of necessity. I was paying rent on my stores, and I was like, yeah, why don't we own these? Because over 20 years we'll have paid for them. And I had a partner at the time who said that's not going to work. First of all, we couldn't get the properties at the right price, and we're not in the real estate business. We're in the automotive tire and repair business. But I was able to negotiate deals on those because I pursued it instead of just saying, yeah, it's not going to work. And we ended up getting those properties at a better value than it would have been if we paid rent on it. And they were right side up immediately. So investigate before you make a decision that it won't work for you.
It's actually a really good tip because you never really know until you start looking under the hood and really seeing, hey, what does it look like to be involved in this? I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So, as we're wrapping up our interview, what exciting things do you have in the next year? What plans do you have?
Well, we're based out of San Diego at the moment, and we plan on moving it to several other cities, Orange County, and then up to Northern California, and then probably into Arizona and Nevada. And then we hope to move it to at least every major city in the US, like where there's an NFL city of at least several million people, we think is the best way to grow it that way.
That's awesome. That's a real exciting thing you have coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
Now, if someone is listening and they're wanting to talk to you a little bit more, they're wanting to ask you a few more questions or possibly be involved, what would be the best way to get a hold of you?
So they can email me at dcook5519@gmail.com, or they can get online and go to covestproperties.com and take a look at our website, and you can get a hold of me through that.
Perfect. Well, Daniel, thank you so much again for your time and your thoughts. I really appreciate the suggestions you gave. And yeah, we appreciate it.
I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. It was a blast.
Okay, have a good one. Bye.
Have a great one. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into Success in Motion. Want to share your story? Visit successinmotionpodcast.com/guest to apply and be featured on the show.